Welcome, everyone, to the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners meeting. We will call it to order. And tonight we'll be led in prayer first by Commissioner Turner, and then Commissioner Rhonda Allen will lead us in the pledge.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you again for the opportunity that's been given to each one of us, Lord, to live in this country, the land of the free, and we're thankful for those blessings and that liberty, Lord, that has been sacrificed by so many so that we can enjoy that. Lord, we've got a lot of big issues in front of us tonight. I just ask that you be with each one of us that have those decisions to make. Help us to clearly understand what the issues are, Lord, and help us to not promote our own individual interests, Lord, but what's in the best interest of the county and the citizens of Rutherford. Ask that you continue to be with us tonight, be with those families that are watching at home, protect us, and we're thankful, Lord. Thank you for sending your son, Jesus, to die for my sins. Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Here.
Commissioner Black?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan?
Here.
Commissioner P?
Here.
Commissioner Cook?
Here.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Here.
Commissioner Farley?
Here.
Commissioner Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Here.
Commissioner Turner?
Here.
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan?
Here.
Commissioner Baum?
Here.
Commissioner Coggin? Commissioner Young? Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Ely? Commissioner Gooch? Commissioner Sereno? 21 present.
Thank you very much. You have before you a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Mr. Chairman, I've read those minutes, I find them in order, and move for their approval.
Second from Commissioner Sandlin. Okay, anyone have any additions or corrections that they'd like to make? If not, all in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much. Next, we're going to call on Commissioner Jeff Jordan to present a resolution of recognition for the 2012-13 Riverdale Lady Warriors basketball team. Commissioner Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Ask for Coach Barrett to come on up and lead his team and fellow coaches up to the podium if they would. Remind the commissioners next week is Spring Fling, and we will have some teams there most likely. However, I do know that we will have 60 track and field athletes there for certain. So already decided. So many of them will hopefully win state championships, and half of you can come on this side over here if you'd like. This is a great, always a great event to be able to honor a state championship team or an individual. Tell you ahead of time that the seniors and Mr. Nolan, the principal of Riverdale High School, are at graduation. They are graduating tonight. And these girls, many of them will be leaving immediately after this to go to graduation, so please understand because their teammates are graduating. I get to come up, this is of course a real pleasure for me as it is for any commissioner and should be for anybody in the county really, but I got to do this in 2007 and in 2009 and in 2010 and in 2012. So, and back-to-back championships, which Riverdale has now accomplished, has never happened in Rutherford County in girls or boys basketball ever in the history of the state. So I think that's terrific. Coach Barrett will have a few words to say after I read the resolution and the presentation to the mayor, and I'm going to brag just a little bit more about Rutherford County. I believe there's 5 or 6 middle schools in Rutherford County represented here, and Coach Barrett is another success from Kittrell. So I'm just going to throw that out there because they're so well known for their basketball. He also was a fine player, although he wouldn't tell you that. Here is the resolution for the Riverdale Lady Warriors. Whereas the 2012-13 Riverdale Lady Warriors wrapped up their back-to-back state championships and their fourth state championship overall with an 83-37 first-round win over Brentwood, followed by an 85-64 win over Memphis Central, which I particularly enjoyed, and a 78-69 win over Science Hill in the championship game. Incidentally, just throw this out there, every single girl on this team that started that game and every single girl that played for Science Hill was a career 1,000-point scorer. That has never happened in the state of Tennessee either. Whereas Riverdale finished the season on a 58-game winning streak. So you see some girls before you here that have never lost. They've forgotten what it even feels like. All 5 starters were voted to the All-State Tournament team. And whereas the starting lineup has received many honors, Taisha Petty was All-Region and the MVP of both the district tournament and the state tournament, and a member of the Tennessee Sports Writers All-State team. Olivia Jones was the D&J Female Athlete of the Year, as well as a member of the Tennessee Sports Writers All-State team, the MVP of the district regular season, All-Region, and on the All-State Tournament team, and Olivia was also a Miss Basketball finalist. Tiffany Lewis was also a member of the All-District team and a member of the All-State Tournament team. Shelby Davenport was a member of the All-District regular season team, All-Region, and a member of the All-State Tournament team. And Alexa Middleton, this gets rather lengthy, was a Miss Basketball finalist, a member of the All-District regular season and tournament team, All-Region team, the Tennessee Sports Writers All-State team, the Nashville Tennessean Mid-State Player of the Year, and a member of the All-State Tournament team. If you recall, Alexa, where are you? Raise your hand, wherever you are. She was not with us last year when we honored them because she was at Olympic trials in Colorado. Whereas the entire team, managers and coaches, are Maddie Cantrell, Rachel Conyers, Jordan Greason, Destiny Williams, Brandy Alley, Shanika Hurd, Madison Compton, Kahila Murray, Dre Curtis, Molly Cantrell, Bree Harrell, and Allison Cantrell. And whereas the team is coached by head coach Corey Barrett and assistant coaches Holly White, Cassie Odom, and Kristen Simmons. And I'm going to say another word about Holly White. Holly, where are you? Holly couldn't be with us last year, but maybe you recall last year we had a resolution for her, we at least announced here, that she was voted one of 2, and they can honor 8, one of 2 of the top physical education assistant coaches, teachers across the state. They only nominated 2 last year, and she was one of them. And I told her I was going to mention it tonight because she wasn't able to come last year. Whereas Coach Barrett was the District 7 AAA Coach of the Year, and Nashville Tennessean Mid-State Coach of the Year, which is really the highest honor you can get. And whereas the Lady Warriors were also honored by being the USA Today third-place team, and they were nationally ranked number 1 by ESPN and also number 1 by Max Prep Sports, a national championship, in other words, and they have T-shirts to prove it, don't you? Whereas this has been an exciting and successful season, and special commendation is due to all team members, head coach Barrett and principal Tom Nolan for their dedication and commitment which made the championship possible, and for bringing this fine publicity to our community by their good sportsmanship and inspired team play. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that we extend this resolution of recognition to the 2012-13 Riverdale Lady Warriors, Coach Barrett and Principal Nolan, for their successful year. Resolved the 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I, with great delight, so move.
Second by Commissioner Phillips and many others. All of you in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye. Coach Barrett.
Thank you. I will disagree with Jeff. I can't really play now, but maybe when I was these kids' age, maybe just a little bit. First, I want to thank Mayor Burgess and all of the commissioners here for having us and allowing us to come. It has been a busy time for us since the course of the season was over. As he mentioned, we had some that are at graduation along with our principal, and we have one of our assistant coaches that actually took the plunge last Saturday, and he is now celebrating his honeymoon in Jamaica, so he couldn't be here. About our team, a little bit about our team. If you didn't get to see us play, or maybe a limited number of times, you know, you heard all the stats and all the things that the individual awards and things like that. But I think if you notice anything about our team is that they played for each other every time out, and no one cared who got the credit or anything like that. And that was a testament to our character of our girls, and we couldn't be more proud of our program at Riverdale and what they've accomplished, and they always go back to team. So I think that's to be commended. We now have a presentation from Mayor Burgess. We have a picture autographed by every member of the varsity basketball team, managers and coaches we'd like to present. If you could come up here. Shelby Davenport's brought it up here.
Well, thank you very, very much. We're going to find a very prominent place to display this. We're honored with your success, and we just really want to say thank you for all of you that have done such a tremendous job working together and being successful. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
Okay, next is our period for public comments. And I will remind us that at 6:30, we have to have the public hearings that we do have 4 scheduled, but we'll start the public comments, and each speaker will have 3 minutes, and you can come forward and give us your name and address and make your statements, and try to stay within your 3-minute that is allotted. So first we have coming to speak Mr. Donald Todd.
My name is Donald Todd, and I live at 633 Buck Lane. 2 methods for avoiding a tax increase. We must remember that there is a law that forbids using unspent surplus revenue for purposes other than the purpose for which appropriations were originally made. During the past 8 years, Rutherford County has unnecessarily over-appropriated to several of the county's major funds. This is especially evident within the last 4 years. For these 8 years, the unspent surplus revenue balances, which include both the fund balances as well as the equity in pooled cash balances, clearly show how over-appropriation has consistently produced over-accumulation of surplus revenue. And in spite of this, our county has inexplicably raised taxes several times. In other words, a raise in taxes should not have been required if proper use of these huge balances of surplus revenue had been realized. An independent investigation by the County Commission should proceed immediately to discover what has happened to bring about this unnecessary calamity. State Senator Stacey Campfield believes that we should adopt remedial legislation immediately to reverse this trend. He believes that no law is currently on the books that would make it doubly certain to transfer an adequate amount of surplus revenue to the next fiscal year's budget and keep that money in the same fund to which the appropriation was originally made. The normal rollover of surplus balances from June 30th to July 1st does not ensure that the money remains in the budgetary process in each of the major county funds. At some point after July 1st and after pure cash has been transferred from a fund balance over to the equity in pooled cash category, 2 or more things take place. Number 1, cash from the equity category is invested in CD purchases or a money market savings account. Because the bankers take control of this surplus revenue for 12 months, the county usually cannot have access to it in a timely manner. Number 2, huge amounts of surplus revenue are deposited in the LGIP number 1 savings account, which is also used as a checking account. Checks are written to pay for many purposes, thus violating the aforementioned law. Elected officials and I met Monday and recommended additional action. To avoid a tax increase, study the feasibility of lowering the fund balance requirements for the major funds in Rutherford County. This would stop over appropriations. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Next, we have scheduled Pat Sanders.
hear him very well. I don't know if the sound system's working. Anyway, it is. Well, that's good. My name is Pat Sanders. I've lived in Rutherford County 50 years come October. Gary Farley is my commissioner. My husband was the director of the health department, Rutherford County Health Department, for 25 years. He got a court order in 1971 from Judge Threet. Anybody remember Judge Threet? To go to Alabama with the road commissioner named Bill Wilson to look at a sanitary landfill. He went, they brought back wonderful pictures how the landfill was lined and going to be really good news. And the landfill was built in the early 70s in Rutherford County. This is your oldest landfill. They didn't line it. They did it on the cheap, is what I'm being told. That's a big disappointment because my husband, the only threat on his life ever was this. Dr. Sanders, if you want to live and do good, you stay out of the Matthews landfill thing. Well, it's a thing, all right. It's still a thing. It's a mystery. It's a puzzle where the white stuff is that's coming on the Stones River, East Fork, right at the landfill, not between the landfill and Short Mountain. Anyway, he did what he was told to do. That landfill is closed and it's covered, but things need to be looked into. It probably should be lined. And the leachate, which is what you call that white stuff, needs to be examined. The Daily News Journal had a picture inside. This was Saturday of Mother's Day weekend at Dr. Marion Wells' research. 3 times is this wording called "at this time." In other words, it's okay at this time. But I'm here to say there's another time, and that is the future. We don't know what's in the white stuff. Is it ground up debris, asbestos from construction, formaldehyde, lead paint? Those are not good things to be leaching into the Stones River for our drinking water. And that's the main reason I'm concerned. I'm sorry about the fish and any other creature. I'm sorry about Percy Priest Lake and Nashville, Tennessee, on down the line. But I'm concerned about the drinking water here, so I suggest you go upstream from the landfill for your intake of your water for drinking. You stop the leachate, or you line it, or both. You change the cover of the closed landfill, and do not sell the landfills. Goodbye. Thank you.
All right. Next, Chloe Cerruti.
My name is Chloe Cerruti. I live at 2841 Vickwood Drive here in Murfreesboro. I appreciate your allowing me to speak today, and I'm here because I'm a resident of this county, and I'm alarmed that our landfills are the source of ongoing leachate flowing into the Stones River. As a business owner with numerous investments in this community, I, like you, have a lot at stake here should our water supply ever become unsafe. 5 years ago, when we were looking to relocate, we were attracted to Rutherford County by its status as one of the fastest growing communities in the nation. Its attributes are well known to everybody here. Its proximity to Nashville, affordable housing, and business and employment opportunities. And judging by the continued influx of residents who continue to move here, it's obviously still highly regarded as a desirable place to live. That said, I must point out that cities such as Dixon and Mount Pleasant, where residents recently had to boil their water, are glaring examples of what can happen when leachate is allowed to contaminate local water supply. It is a recipe for disaster environmentally, socially, and economically. I would hate to see such a catastrophe befall us because we failed to heed this unfortunate example of what not to do. That said, it must be very tempting for those in charge to rid themselves of this particular problem, at least temporarily, by selling the landfills to the likes of Republic. However, in my view, that will merely postpone the inevitable day of reckoning when our problems will have become that much worse. Certainly, Republic has no commitment to assuring the well-being of this community, since its business practices are predicated solely upon financial considerations. Witness Middle Point's gift to Rutherford County, the huge amounts of low-level radioactive waste, which shall be the gift that keeps on giving for a long, long time to come. Since privately owned landfills are answerable only to state and federal governments, from instances like Dixon and Mount Pleasant, it's obvious that those agencies cannot be relied upon to ensure that our water remains safe. Therefore, I must reiterate the importance and immediacy of our landfill water problems, and I urge you all to join together in implementing the necessary solutions. I hope you will also bear in mind that your actions, or the lack thereof, will be your legacy to Rutherford County far into the future, affecting not just our lives, but those of many generations to follow. Thank you very much.
Next is Catherine Ferris.
My name's Kathleen Ferris, and I'm a resident of East Compton Road. Mr. Robert P. is my commissioner. And I have spoken to this group, although the composition has changed somewhat, about the landfill back in 2007, when we learned that there was radioactive waste going into Middle Point. I've tried to think of other things besides the landfill since then, but it's one of those things you cannot forget because it is so close to the source of our drinking water. I have read the 32-page study that was done by Dr. Marion Wells, who was a colleague of my husband's at MTSU. They were in different departments, of course. And I hope that all of you have read it. But just in case you haven't, we passed out a little brochure, and it's kind of a Cliff's Notes that I want to bring your attention to, some of the most important things in Dr. Wells' study. Now, as I pointed out, Middle Point, we know that in 1 year alone, it got 10 million pounds of debris from a decommissioned reactor in Michigan. And it had been taking it it took that kind of waste for a decade, roughly. So we don't know how much or what level of radiation is buried in Middle Point. And yet, if you will look at the top picture on this little brochure, you can see this is Middle Point. And you can see waste going from the holding pond into the river, those little white dots. You can also see that the color of the water is different there. Now, I'm convinced by this that Middle Point is leaking into the Stones River. Whether it's leaking radiation or not, we don't know. The second picture is the old landfill, and again, you can see the color of the water changes. Where the little yellow dot is, right almost in the center of the picture, the water upstream from that to the right is darker. When it gets to the landfill, it turns lighter, and it stays lighter, and that's a city water intake, that little white spot in the lower left-hand side. That's where the city's getting its water. So I would ask that we need to know what is in the leachate, and we need to have a hydrologist to test it and make sure that what we're drinking is safe. Thank you.
Next, we have Cindy Wells.
I live at 7884 Canesville Pike in Las Casas, and I'm honored to follow Dr. Ferris. She is a hero, for those of you that don't know it, in stopping radioactive waste and coming to our county, so I'm proud to be here with her. Our county landfill is leaking into the Stones River at the raw water intake for the city of Murfreesboro. And while it's not at toxic levels now, it could be in the future because our county leadership has refused to keep landfill leachate and groundwater collection systems in working order. I have a newspaper article here. The title of it is Rutherford County wants to fix toxic leak, Rutherford County works to fix toxic leak at the county landfill. And you might ask yourself, well, when was this printed? Well, it was printed on May 30th in 2010. And in this article, it says that a proposal to fund a collection system, a leachate collection system, will go before the Rutherford Public Works Committee in the June 2010 meeting. So you see, we've already been through the committee process about this before, and now here we go again. As recently as April 26, Mr. Nolan was still making excuses for why we can't do anything real that will help stop the leaking into our river. In a letter to TDEC, he says that the modifications to the final cover problem, and I quote, will likely be made in May. Well, it shouldn't be likely. It should be, it will be, in my opinion. And then there's another sentence in the letter. Due to TDEC, and I quote, due to TDEC personnel scheduling conflicts, the physical review of the system will be conducted in May. Well, the deadline was set for this by TDEC was on April 30th, as is evidenced by this letter from April 2nd. So it doesn't seem to matter how much time our county is given to correct the landfill leachate leaking into the river. It doesn't seem to matter how much time they're given. They're not in any hurry to do anything. So I asked myself, what do they get in a hurry to do? And because I can't help myself, I'm going to bring this up. I remembered back in December that Mayor Burgess and Mr. Nolan were able to quickly propose an attempt to push through a landfill garage they wanted to purchase. Spending this $1.1 million was so important that there was no delay in ramrodding it through the committee process. And if not for concerned citizens who begged Mayor Burgess to please not push this forward 2 days after Christmas in a committee meeting, and I was there, I heard it with my own ears, then we would have probably spent that $1.1 million on this landfill garage, which the county did not need. And that is evidenced by the fact that they haven't looked at other locations since, and they're making do with what they have, which is wonderful. I'm happy about that. So I say all this to say that our county leadership can work effectively as a team and get things done very quickly if they set their minds to it. And I would like for them to set their minds to cleaning up or getting the groundwater and the leachate systems fixed. Thank you.
Okay, now it's just a little bit past 6:30, so we have to go into our public hearing agenda. So we're going to start that with public hearing on the rezoning request for 13-A006 Edgar Arnold, located at 3892 Shelbyville Highway, and the existing zoning on that property is RM. The proposed zoning is CS on a site of approximately 8.05 acres, and Mr. Demosi will explain more fully.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you, and good evening, Mayor and members of the Commission. This first property, as was stated, is located along Shelbyville Pike. This property was rezoned originally back in 2003 to retail and wholesale trade with a conditional use permit to allow retail sales of farm machinery and equipment, farm machinery and equipment repair shop, and mini warehouses. An additional conditional use was granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals in 2005 to allow for a landscaping and building sales yard. And finally, last year, a temporary fireworks tent was approved on the site. Due to the fact that the property was vacant when we went through our comprehensive rezoning that took effect at the beginning of this year, the property was rezoned to residential RM, which is currently zoned. The applicant approached us, and the person that was using the site for a temporary fireworks tent is still interested in using the site in that manner, which does require commercial rezoning. He does have plans at some point in the future to build a commercial development on the property. However, in the short term, he really is just looking at a place for the temporary firework vendor. So he's asked for this property to be rezoned back to commercial, which would be commercial services, which was consistent with what the uses that he had originally approved. If you look at the map that's on your in agenda materials, which should be on your iPads, you'll notice that it is adjacent to commercially zoned property directly to the south. It is directly across the street also from the county's landfill. The Planning Commission did consider this request and does recommend approval by unanimous vote, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Demosi before we have the public hearing? Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we're going to declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this proposal, this is your opportunity to come forward and speak. So please come forward and identify yourself and give us your address. Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against this rezoning request? Okay, I don't see anyone that wishes to come forward. Therefore, we're going to declare the public hearing closed. And is there a motion concerning this request? Commissioner Farley.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the request with the conditions set forth by the Planning Commission.
Is there a second? Commissioner Jernigan. Is there discussion? All right, if there's no discussion, okay. Commissioner Turner, do I need to wait on the vote or?
I'm sorry, just so the commissioner, it is the plans are on the public works folder, not the commission folder.
Okay, excuse me, that's all right. Does anyone need more time on this? All right, then we're ready to vote. All of you in favor of this, please say aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you very much. The next request, number 2, is a rezoning request 13-A007 from Howard and Susan Wilson, located at 6241 Browns Mill Road. And that existing zoning is RM, and the proposed zoning is AR, and on a site of approximately 22.2 acres. Mr. Demosi.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. As you stated, this property is located along Browns Mill Road. The property is currently used as a residential single-family home as well as farming activities on the property. The applicant has indicated his desire to continue those operations on the property. He's also stated that his wife is planning to host events on the property in a barn that was constructed for that purpose, such as weddings and those type of events. Those events and type activities are permitted under the agricultural residential zone, which is what they're asking for. When he first approached us about this, he had a couple of options. He could have went for the AR rezoning, or he could have simply just went to the Board of Zoning Appeals. However, that would have been more of a seasonal thing. He would have had to probably have done that more than just basically every year. So he decided to go this route for basically a one-time approval for that. The property directly across the street is zoned agricultural. The Planning Commission did review this particular application and does recommend approval by unanimous vote. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demosi? Okay, thank you. Then we will declare the public hearing open on this rezoning request 13-A007 by Mr. Howard and Susan Wilson. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this request? Please come forward and give us your name and address and make your comments. Okay, I see no one here that wishes to speak regarding this request, so the public hearing is closed. And Commissioner Black.
I'll make a motion to approve this applicant on conditions of the set forth by the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second? Commissioner Jordan. Now, is there any discussion? All right, all of you then in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Rezoning request number 3 is being made. That's 13-A008. The Planning Department is making this request, and Mr. Demosi, you may explain this request.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you. This property is located along Double Springs Road, at the intersection of John Bragg and Double Springs. During the creation of our new zoning ordinance, the Planning Department was accepting any requests to voluntarily zone property to the new agricultural residential zone. This particular property owner did make a request to our office. Unfortunately, with all that was going on with that, this one somehow slipped through and was rezoned to residential multifamily. When we realized what had happened, we did contact the property owner and asked him if he was still interested in the agricultural residential zoning. He said that he was, and so we initiated this application. The Planning Commission did look at this application. Again, they recommended in favor of it by unanimous vote. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. So this is just a sort of a correction, a cleanup of something that was sort of an oversight, but we will declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this request, please come forward and give us your name and address and make your comment. Okay, no one is coming forward, therefore we're going to declare the public hearing closed. And Mr. Jernigan, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the request.
And a second, Commissioner Farley. Any other discussion? All of you in favor of this, then please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next, we have various zoning ordinance amendments, better known as the glitch ordinance. This is 13-5001 this request is from the Planning Department. So, Mr. Demosi.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you. As you're all aware, our new zoning ordinance took effect at the beginning of this year. Since that time, staff has identified a number of tweaks that need to be made to the document, and this is something that we envisioned while we were going through this process, that probably after about 6 months or so, roughly, that we would probably be coming back to you with a list of amendments, things that we felt needed to be tweaked. Generally, most of these that you're going to look at tonight fall under just typographical errors, things that we thought looked good at the time, but maybe in practice didn't work as well as we thought they would. So those are predominantly the makeup of the changes we'll be talking about tonight. I'm going to try to go through these quickly. You'll notice on your iPad that this is a several-page document. It looks intimidating just by the length, but I promise the substance of the changes really aren't as significant as it looks. Under Chapter 3, and you'll notice on the amendment, any new text is in bold and any deleted text is double struck through. So under Chapter 3, really all this particular change is doing is just changing there wasn't really an ordinance number associated with the official adoption of the zoning ordinance, so we're just changing the wording of that a little bit to put on the official zoning map. Under Chapter 4, residential district regulations, that first for under permitted accessory uses, is that item deals primarily with yard sales. However, there are some folks that also like to grow produce that's grown on their property, residential property, so we've just included that into the regulation as opposed to just yard sales. The next point under there, also this deals primarily with assembly uses, primarily churches and those kind of things that sometimes have a Mother's Day Out program, something to that effect. I will say under H there, you'll see it says a Parent's Day Out of child care for pre-teenage children. That should say or. I made the change there to the resolution for approval, but it was a typo that unfortunately the typographic, the error wasn't caught by the spell checker because of is a word, so that was on me. Also, private residential homes that provide child care for 4 or less children require no licensure from the state of Tennessee. That's something we routinely allow. However, the ordinance didn't specifically state that, so we wanted to put that in there. The next 3 actually, chapters 5, 6, and 7, pretty much deal with the same issues when it comes to the Parents' Day Out program, or in those districts that do allow for residential use, child care for 4 or less children that don't require licensure by the state. Under Chapter 11, Supplementary District Regulations, the first item there, 1101L, deals with how we handle double frontage lots. Basically what we've done is we've gone back to the old definition and regulation that was under our old zoning resolution. After really looking at how that regulation was working under the new code, we just felt that this made more sense. So we just went back to double frontage lots, and we also eliminated a chart that was in the new zoning ordinance as well. Temporary use permits, that just changes resolution to ordinance, just a typo in the text. The next 1101M2 deals with sales of food and merchandise. This one I will explain just a little bit further. Our current zoning ordinance allows for the sale of food or retail merchandise in commercial or industrial zones only. After speaking with the Planning Commission about this issue, there did appear to be a consensus that this type of activity should be allowed in all districts subject to Board of Zoning Appeal approval. This change would accomplish that. The next item is simply a typographical error. It was just referencing the wrong section from B. We changed it to A. That's all that's doing. The next down for mobile homes changes the approval process determined by the chart in Appendix B. Basically, the intent is to allow mobile homes on any lot of greater than 5 acres, single-wide mobile homes on lots greater than 5 acres by right. The way the ordinance was read, there was a little discrepancy there, so we just changed that to clarify that, and also the chart that I'll talk to in about just a few minutes. 1106A, performance standards. That's really, again, just a typographical error. Moving into Chapter 14, administration and enforcement. Again, 1404A4 deals with just a typographical error in the text. 1404C adds a few items to the list that we look for on site plans, property zoning and setbacks, surrounding zoning, utility certifications. These are things that we routinely see and have been seeing on our site plans, but the ordinance didn't specifically call that out, so we wanted to do that. The next two are just amendments to existing site plan checklist items. You see, we just made some tweaks to that. The next item is probably the biggest change, and this is site plan design requirements. These design requirements typically deal with stormwater management and drainage. These are all items that are currently on books in other areas of the stormwater regulations or stormwater ordinance. After speaking with our engineering staff, they just felt it'd be good to have all these regulations kind of in one spot for one-stop shopping, if you will. So these are not new regulations. These are things that we currently are doing. However, we just felt it'd be better to have them in the zoning ordinance just so everybody knows on the front end that this is what's expected of them. So that's really the most significant change of what we're talking about. We made a couple of changes to the conflict of interest and then vacancies and removal. Really, we just removed the date from the conflict of interest code of ethics for Rutherford County, just so whatever one's in effect at that time is the one that is in effect. Vacancies and removals, we made some small tweaks to that to make it consistent with state law. Under zoning variances and special exceptions, which is the next couple sections, under our rezoning applications, there's a provision in there that if an application is denied, there's a 6-month time frame before that application can be made again. Inadvertently, that was left out of the variances and special exceptions, so this just adds that back in there, is all that does. And then finally, under our land use activity table, you'll see there's a small chart in the on your agenda materials. That really just deals with the dwelling mobile home that we talked about and the approval process for that, with that change I explained earlier. And in the land use index, the following items were classified by the Board of Zoning Appeals at their February 13th, 2013 meeting, which is consistent with our zoning ordinance. They have the ability to do that if a use comes about that's not listed in the index. The Board of Zoning Appeals can make an interpretation as to where they feel it should go. They have done that, and so now we're just adding them into the ordinance, which would be C&D landfills, indoor gun ranges, and then you'll see we're removing feedlots. That's just a real quick overview of these applications, or this particular application. I went through it pretty fast, so if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any of them regarding this code. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this by unanimous vote.
Okay, any questions on this from Mr. DeBosi? Okay, thank you then. All right, so we're going to declare the public hearing open with respect to these various zoning ordinance amendments that have been described. And if anyone is present that wants to speak for or against these proposed amendments, please come forward and give us your name and address. Okay, again, we don't see anyone that wishes to speak. The public hearing is closed. Do we have a motion considering these? Motion from Mr. Sandlin to approve and a second from Commissioner Allen. Any discussion or questions before we vote? Okay, all of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Okay, now we will return to public comments, and the next speaker that we have listed is Ralph Weber.
Thank you. My name is Ralph Weber. I live at 2525 Retreat Court in Rutherford County. I'd like to talk about the increase in the employee benefits plan. I read in the minutes that the benefits are increasing by $11 million, 24%. And the only reasons that I could find out that I was given was due to the ACA and the well has run dry. Now, any reason regarding the ACA doesn't go into effect till 2014, so I don't believe that that's valid. As far as the well running dry, if that has indeed happened, then it's a problem with plan design or the stop loss levels. 2 years ago, there was an RFP sent out on the benefits, and some of the parameters of the quote said local account management is a preference, and the county is managed, as I understand it, out of Franklin. So we're sending money out of the county to have somebody in Franklin manage it. And it also says preference will be given to carriers who can guarantee administrative fees and stop-loss premium rates for 3 years. Stop-loss rates went up by 8.6%, 10 months after this went into effect. It also says guarantee trends at or below current levels. 24% increase is 300% above trend. Okay, so this RFP that went into effect last July is totally off. They've totally missed the point now. Now, I think the county needs to demand from Cigna to see an accounting of was the money actually paid to providers, okay, and reconcile that to make sure that they actually paid what they said they paid to providers. The current plan has an annual deductible and out-of-pocket and co-insurance. These are some of the worst plans out there because what happens, I've looked at the claims patterns the last 2 months of the claim year. Every year, you see a lot of spending in the last 2 months. Why is that? Because once everybody's met their deductible, the spending becomes wasteful, okay, and they just spend it. Early in the year, when they have this large deductible, sometimes $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $8,000 on some of the plans, when you include the out-of-pocket, small care is put off until it becomes a really large stage 3 disease, which is very expensive to treat. So monthly deductibles answer that. Okay, they have a smaller front end so that it's easier for the employees to receive care, and then it eliminates the wasteful spending. So that's one really easy thing. I think that because this RFP called for those 3 specific things and they were not met, I think the county needs to re-tender this benefits plan because 24% increase, 11% increase, $11 million increase is unacceptable. I've heard county employees are underpaid. If that is the case, then what we need to do is pay the county employees properly and eliminate the wasteful sending, which is simply enriching Cigna and not the county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, next we have Angela Cotter.
Good evening. My name is Angela Cotter, and I live at 6601 Rhodes Lane in Las Casas. I've heard over and over from each of you that we need to work and resolve this landfill problem. We need to be positive and go down the path of resolution. The only way this will work in this direction is first to openly and honestly admit that we have a problem, and then openly hear from each person and everyone involved with their ideas to resolve it. Commissioners, Mr. Mayor, each of you know that we have this problem. Baby steps have been taken down a positive road, but let's stand up tonight and admit that our landfill has a problem and start the fix. Some of us have attempted to help, and we've done some water testing with results that each of you have. This has been ignored or dismissed out of the sheer scientific evidence, without sheer scientific evidence to counter with. We have photo evidence showing changes in our water and possible debris in the river that has been ignored. This picture I'm holding was taken by a flying instructor out of Murfreesboro on April the 12th. This photo was given to Mr. Flood from TDEC on April the 14th. As of today, we have not heard any excuse or reasoning behind the color changes or the debris shown in the river. We must work hard to protect our water. The fact is that someone in government has decided that C&D landfills are not dangerous and they do not pollute our waterways. So therefore, they do not need to be monitored by well systems or testing. That's simply crap. Let's do everything that we can do on the forefront and monitor this site. Let's protect our drinking water. We need to clean up this landfill site and protect it for the future. We do not need to be in discussions on sale to Republic. Public Works and this commission and the mayor need to hold an open forum or a town hall meeting to let people discuss this landfill on the open and honest forefront. Plans need to be in place to map out today, not later, not next month, not in the future. We're tired of being put on the back burner from month to month. Folks, there's just not a rug big enough to sweep this under. Any of you are more than welcome to look at this photograph if you want to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the public comments, and we'll go back to our agenda of elections and confirmations. Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, steering has several items for your consideration this evening. First, we need to elect notaries. On your desk, you will find a copy of those candidates, and I move for their election, Mr. Chair.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan. All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Second, we need to fill 3 vacancies on the Emergency Communications District Board. Steering nominates Mr. Mark O'Neill to represent Smyrna, Mr. Mike Walker to represent Laverne, and Mayor Sam Toon to represent Eagleville. I move, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jordan, second. All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Need to announce a veterinarian vacancy on the Board of Health. And finally, we announce 2 vacancies on the Linebaugh Library Board.
Thank you, Commissioner Gooch. There is no unfinished business. We will start now on the reports by the standing committees. There is a monthly report from the Purchasing Committee. Do we have a motion on that report? Ms. Cook and Commissioner Schaefer second. Any discussion? Let it be reflected that Commissioner Farley will not be voting. All of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Next, we're ready to start an extensive list, and we just almost ran out of letters in the alphabet, Ms. Commissioner Ely, but we will let you start the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee report.
Item K2A, the General Fund Budget Amendments. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the General Fund be amended as follows. From Planning and Engineering, from miscellaneous gasoline $800 to planning gasoline $800. County Buildings, from unassigned fund balance $40,071 to part-time personnel $14,000 and the related benefits, communications $10,000, and contract with government agencies $15,000. Pet adoption and welfare services, from miscellaneous gasoline $6,500 to pause gasoline $6,500. Other public health and welfare, from unassigned fund balance $60,000 to other contracted services $60,000, and this is for autopsies. Sheriff's Department and Jail, increased revenue from contributions and gifts $1,113, increased expenditures, Sheriff other contracted services $209, other supplies and materials $654, and jail other supplies and materials $250. Increased revenue from sale of supplies and materials $840, increased expenditures from the Sheriff other contracted services $196, jail other supplies and materials $644. Increased revenue, sale of recycled materials $3,307, increased expenditure, jail other supplies and materials $3,307. And from unassigned fund balance $85,000 to jail food supplies, $85,000. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Serino. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2B, a special purpose fund budget amendment. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the special purpose DEA fund be amended as follows. Sheriff's Department, from restricted for public safety $35,000 to other equipment $35,000. Resolved this 16th day of May 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan. Any questions or discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2C, Ambulance Service Fund Budget Amendment. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the Ambulance Service Fund be amended as follows. Emergency medical service, increased revenue, patient charges, $10,000, increased expenditure refunds, $10,000. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Farley. Any questions or discussion? All in favor then please say aye. Nope, can't do that. We got to cast our votes. Please cast your votes. I'm a little too fast there.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2D, General Purpose School Fund Budget Amendments, and we have 6 of those. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the General Purpose School Fund be amended according to the schedules attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as set forth herein at length verbatim. Amendment number 1 is to amend $24,678 in already budgeted teacher pay and $1,435 in the related benefits in order to cover staff changes. Amendment number 2, to amend $67,062 in classified staff pay and $8,544 in related benefits in order to cover staff changes. Number 3, to amend $270,000 in additional state BEP funds. The system will receive these dollars for the mid-year insurance increase to the insurance lines and to adjust other miscellaneous insurance lines. 4, to amend $241,326 in state flow-through funds for high-cost special ed students. Number 5, to amend $21,775 from fund balance to 72220-524 special education staff development, $36,000 in rental income, which offsets the flow-through pay and benefits, and $59,606 in donations with the related expenditures. And number 6, to amend a reduction in state career ladder revenues by $184,118 and to reduce the related career ladder expenditures by $184,118 and to move $2,133 in extended contract expenditures from 71100 regular education to 72220 special education. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Turner. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2E, Central Cafeteria Fund Budget Amendments. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the Central Cafeteria Fund be amended as follows. Food service from restricted for operation of non-instructional services, $201,668. Decreased revenues, lunch payments for children, $101,300. For adults, $14,000, and commodities, $300,000. Increased revenue, a la carte sales, $140,000. State school food service, $5,589. And reimbursable breakfast, $30,000. Increased expenditures for bookkeepers, $2,000. Cafeteria personnel, $300,000, and related benefits. Food preparation supplies, $20,000. Uniforms, $1,000. Food service equipment, $164,747. Decreased expenditures, supervisor, director, $30,000. Other salaries and wages, $30,000. medical insurance $90,000, unemployment $18,300, workers' comp $27,150, transportation other than students $45,000, USDA commodities $300,000, and other charges $3,300. Resolved the 16th day of May 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. Are there any questions? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2F, a resolution authorizing the issuance of an interfund capital outlay note not to exceed $2,500,000. Commissioners, this resolution shows Rutherford County's support for the construction of a hangar, office space, and underground utilities for the Airport Authority. This project that they are working on is a $9.3 million project, with the Airport Authority requesting 1/2 of the funding to come from state and federal government. They are going to use, or they plan to use, $330,000 from the IDB board, and the remaining portion is a request from the Airport Authority to be shared between Rutherford County and Smyrna, and the 60-40 split. So we have two resolutions to consider for this project. The first is an interloan fund, a resolution authorizing the issuance of interfund capital outlay notes in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $2,500,000 of Rutherford County, Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said notes, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of and interest on the notes. And Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Okay, in a second, Commissioner Sandlin. Now, Commissioner Young.
Because I am a employee of the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority, I have a conflict of interest from this proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that by argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and my obligation to my constituents and the citizens that this body represents. Thank you.
Commissioner Farley.
I'm going to pull a Commissioner Jim Daniels on this one here. On the last page there, it actually says Franklin, Tennessee instead of Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
So noted. We'll make that change on page 4. Are there any other questions? All right. All of you in favor of this, then please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Item K2G, initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $2,500,000 general obligation bonds. And this resolution notifies the public that we will issue bonds and then use those funds to repay the interfund loan. Initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $2,500,000 of general obligation bonds of Rutherford County, Tennessee. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
And a second from, Commissioner Schaefer. Okay, any questions or discussion? Commissioner Young, do you need to read your statement again, please?
Yes, I do. Because I am an employee of the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority, I have a conflict of interest in this proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and my obligation to my constituents and the citizens that this body represents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other discussion, all of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Item K2H, a resolution approving Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority 2013-14 budget. It has been called to our attention that the County Commission should approve and vote on a formal approval of the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority's budget. So be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority 2013-14 2014 budget be approved, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolves this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner McAdoo. Any questions or discussion? Commissioner Farley? We'll give you just a few moments to look at it. They are projecting a net profit. Okay, are we ready to vote then? All right, all in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Item K2I, a resolution authorizing animal-friendly grant application through the Tennessee Department of Health. Whereas Rutherford County desires to submit a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Health in the amount of $6,600, which requires no local matching funds, for an animal-friendly grant for the provision of low-cost sterilization of dogs and cats. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Health for an animal-friendly grant for the provision of low-cost sterilization of dogs and cats. Additionally, that the county mayor be authorized to accept said grant, subject to it being awarded. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Farley. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of this, then please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Item K2J, a resolution authorizing state criminal alien assistance grant application for the Sheriff's Department. Whereas Rutherford County desires to submit an application to the United States Department of Justice for the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program requiring no local matching funds. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit an application to the United States Department of Justice for the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, and additionally that the county mayor be authorized to accept said grant, subject to it being awarded. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Farley. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Item K2K, a resolution authorizing the Governor's Highway Safety Office grant application for the Sheriff's Department. Whereas the Rutherford County desires to submit a grant application to the Governor's Highway Safety Office requiring no matching funds for the purpose of assisting in the funding for the alcohol saturation patrols, roadside sobriety checkpoints. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and any other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a grant application to the Governor's Highway Safety Office, and additionally that the county mayor be authorized to accept said grant, subject to it being awarded. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Schaefer. Any questions or discussion? If not, all of you in favor of that, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Item K2L, a resolution authorizing Christy Houston Foundation grant application for rescue truck for the fire department and a rescue boat for the ambulance service. Whereas Rutherford County desires to submit a grant application to the Christy Houston Foundation in the amount of $267,000 for the purpose of acquiring a rescue truck for the county fire department in the amount of $210,000 and a rescue boat for the ambulance service special operations and rescue team in the amount of $57,000. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a grant application to the Christy Houston Foundation, and additionally, that the county mayor be authorized to accept said grant subject to it being awarded. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, with the Commissioner Farley. Should I tell them? The resolution, the numbers are not quite right in here. The total amount that's going to be asked for is $210,000. The rescue truck is $155,000, and the boat is $55,000. So I'd like to just let you know that we need to redo this resolution, so you're not voting on $267,000, you're voting on $210,000. Commissioner Farley.
All right. What we're going to do with, wasn't that part of the, as far as the equipment to go on it?
Oh, we're not able to ask for the equipment. But this is, I already seen the documentation today, so Elaine's resolution here just is not exactly what we're going to ask for. So I want to notify you that we're only going to ask for the $210,000 total dollars.
As far as the equipment, we can work the equipment out.
Equipment's going to have to be handled by us.
Okay, all right.
Okay, just letting you know that we're clarifying that, and you're not voting precisely on it. You're voting on a total of 210, 155 plus 55. Okay, that being said, all of you in favor of this, then please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Item K2M, a resolution authorizing salary supplement agreement with the Tennessee Department of Health. Whereas Rutherford County desires to enter into an agreement with the Tennessee Department of Health for the provision of employee services in the amount of $8,256.01. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Health in the amount of $8,256.01 for the provision of employee services for the period of July 1, 2013 through June 30, 2014. A copy of the same being attached hereto is Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
And a second, Commissioner Sandlin. Okay, are there any questions on this? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2N, a resolution authorizing a grant application through the Tennessee Department of Health. Whereas Rutherford County desires to submit a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Health in the amount of $2,000, which requires no local matching funds for the public health, partnering to promote primary prevention with minority communities initiative. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to submit a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Health for the public health, partnering to promote primary prevention with minority communities initiative. Additionally, that the county mayor be authorized to accept said grant, subject to it being awarded. Resolves this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and a second from Commissioner P. Any questions? Okay. All in favor of this, then please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Item K2O, a resolution authorizing 2013-2014 property, casualty, and crime insurance renewal. Whereas the broker and third-party administration services, as well as the property, casualty, inland marine, liability, and crime insurance renewals have been bid, and it is being proposed to award Rutherford County's business for these services to CCMSI, the incumbent. And whereas CCMSI has offered Travelers as the carrier for Rutherford County's property and inland marine coverage with an annual premium of $433,223. And whereas CCMSI has offered Brit Global as the carrier for Rutherford County's casualty, liability, and crime coverage with an annual premium of $599,000 and a credit of $6,000 for loss control. Whereas CCMSI has offered coverage for uninsured and underinsured motorists and an accident policy for reserve deputies and volunteer firefighters. And whereas CCMSI provides for broker and comprehensive third-party administration services for claim services including on-the-job injury claims. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be authorized to execute all required documents awarding the property, inland marine, crime, and casualty coverage to CCMSI as the broker and third-party administrator, effective July 1, 2013. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Sandlin. Any questions? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
Item K2P, a resolution awarding life insurance carrier to the Hartford, effective January 1, 2014. Whereas requests for proposals were issued for the employee basic, supplemental, life, and accidental death and dismemberment insurance, and whereas it is being proposed to award the life insurance carrier to the Hartford, effective January 1, 2014. And whereas the Hartford offered a 12 9/10% reduction on the basic life insurance coverage of $35,000 on each employee, which is paid by the county for the employee, and a 3 4/10% reduction on supplemental life insurance for an overall reduction of 6 1/10%. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute all necessary documents for and on behalf of Rutherford County, Tennessee, to award the life insurance carrier to the Hartford, effective January 1, 2014, for an annual cost to Rutherford County of $235,955, effective January 1, 2014. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jordan, second. Are there any questions? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2Q, a resolution awarding short-term disability insurance to Cigna, effective January 1, 2014. Whereas requests for proposals were issued for the short-term disability insurance, which is fully paid by the employee, and whereas the current vendor, Reliance Standard, failed to meet the bid deadline, and whereas Cigna proposed a flat premium and matched the current benefits. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute all required documents for and on behalf of Rutherford County, Tennessee, to award the short-term disability insurance to Cigna, effective January 1, 2014. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Schaefer. Any questions? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2R, a resolution renewing stop-loss insurance with Cigna Healthcare. Whereas the current stop-loss coverage on Rutherford County's medical plan is $750,000 per covered member, and whereas Cigna has proposed to renew the stop-loss coverage at the same pooling level, with the monthly rate increasing from $5.48 per employee to $5.95 per employee, for a total annual premium of $348,718. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute all required documents for and on behalf of Rutherford County to renew the stop-loss coverage on Rutherford County's medical plan, with the pooling level to remain the same at $750,000 per covered member, for a monthly rate of $5.95 per employee, and a total annual premium of $348,718, effective July 1, 2013, resolved the 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Jernigan. Now, Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions about this. How long have we had it at the level of $750,000?
This be the third year. Is that correct, Ms. Stinson? What did she
2
say?
years, coming up on 3.
Did the commission vote to increase that? I can't remember. I don't know if I was here when we did that or not. I just was wondering, and maybe the public would like to know this, but that means that the first $750,000 for someone's insurance is paid by the county, and then every dollar after that is paid by Cigna. And that just seems awfully high to me. I don't know. I've talked to several insurance experts, and they've advised me that cities and municipalities and counties our size normally have like $100,000 stop loss before the insurance starts taking over. And I know the premium would be a lot higher, but that's a lot of risk and a lot of tax dollars going out to pay these claims. And was this bid out?
Yes, I think it was.
And this was the best deal that we could get? Well, I think that's just a lot of risk for the county to assume. So,
but I think experience has shown that we've saved money over the years, over the life of the of pushing that stop loss up. I mean, it's been a benefit to the county.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion and a second? I think we do, don't we? Okay. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record your votes.
20 yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
Item K2S, a resolution authorizing changes to health insurance plan effective January 1, 2014. Whereas in an effort to save costs within the health insurance plan, the following plan changes are being proposed and are estimated to generate an annual savings of $675,700. Copay plan in network. 1, change the annual deductible from $750 per person and $1,500 per family to $1,000 per person and $2,000 per family. 2, change the annual out-of-pocket maximum from $3,750 per person and $7,500 per family to $4,000 per person and $8,000 per family. 3, increase the emergency room copay to $300 per visit unless admitted to the hospital. 4, increase the urgent care copay to $60. And 5, change mail order pharmacy 90-day retail from $15, $90, $180 to $12, $75, and $150. Copay plan out of network. Number 1, change annual deductible from $1,500 per person and $3,000 per family to $2,000 per person and $4,000 per family. 2, change the annual out-of-pocket maximum from $7,500 per person and $15,000 family to $8,000 per person and $16,000 per family. 3, increase the emergency room copay to $300 per visit unless admitted to the hospital. Deductible plan in network. 1, change the annual out-of-pocket maximum from $2,550 per person and $4,850 per family to $2,500 per person and $5,000 per family. 2, increase the emergency room copay to $300 per visit unless admitted to the hospital. 3, change mail order pharmacy 90-day retail from $15, 20%, 35%, no deductible, to $12, 15%, 30%, no deductible. Deductible plan out of network. 1, change annual deductible from $900 per person and $1,800 per family to $1,000 per person and $2,000 per family. 2, change annual out-of-pocket maximum from $4,850 per person and $9,450 per family to $5,000 per person and $10,000 per family. 3, increase the emergency room copay to $300 per visit unless admitted to the hospital. HRA plan in network. Number one, change the annual deductible from $1,500 for single and $3,000 family collective to $1,750 single and $3,500 family collective. 2, change mail order pharmacy 90-day retail from 30%, 40%, 50% deductible apply to 25%, 35%, 45% deductible apply. HRA plan out of network. Number 1, change the annual deductible from $2,500 single and $5,000 family collective to $3,000 single and $6,000 family collective. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the changes to the Rutherford County Health Insurance Plan as enumerated above in the foregoing resolution be adopted in an effort to save costs within the plan effective January 1, 2014. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Jordan. Are there any questions? Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes. My wife is an employee of the Board of Education, and she carries county medical insurance. And there might be, I guess, with our code of ethics that I need to mention that she does work.
Other discussion or questions? Commissioner Phillips.
Because I'm an employee of Rutherford County School Board, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my constituents and the citizens of this body it represents.
Alan?
I just had a question. In the beginning sentence, it says that it's to generate an annual savings of $675,700. And my question is, savings from what? From what the plan would have been if we had stayed with the benefit? That's how much the premium increase would have been? Or I just want to be clear on where the savings is coming from.
What this means is that the employee will pick up these additional expenses instead of the plan.
Okay, so that's cost shifting from the county to the, or from the coverage to them.
Commissioner P.
Because my wife is an employee of Rutherford County, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Because I am an employee of the Rutherford County Highway Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligations to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Reno. Any other questions or discussions or disclosures? Commissioner Jordan.
I don't have a conflict. I just want to say something. I disagree with what Ms. Nolan just said. The $675,000 isn't put back on the employee. So what this is to a great extent meant to drive behavior, such as the increase in the emergency room to $300. If people can go to a walk-in clinic or something like that, that's just a savings. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't, as being on the insurance committee, this isn't $675,000 put on the backs of the employees. This is to drive behavior. A whole lot of this is.
Drive behavior, but when you take somebody's deductible and raise it,
it's split. A lot of this is to drive behavior.
Cost.
And maybe even to make people that have other insurance available through their spouse's workplace or something like that, to maybe take that when this isn't quite as inexpensive as it was in other ways. So this isn't necessarily throwing it on the back. We'll get to that in a few minutes. We put it on the backs of the employees. This isn't the one that does that.
All right, points well taken. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, 2 no. Motion passes.
Item K2T, a resolution authorizing the dental premium rates effective January 1, 2014. Whereas the employee dental coverage is self-sustaining and the current premium rates are sufficient to fund the plan for 2014. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the premium rates for the dental plan remain the same for the 2014 calendar year as the 2013 dental premium rates, according to the schedule attached here to is Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved the 16th day of May 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin. Any discussion? Okay, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
21 yes, motion passes.
Item K2U, a resolution authorizing health insurance premium rates for pre-65 and post-65 retirees effective January 1, 2014. Whereas the Rutherford County Benefits and Insurance Committee has studied the health insurance premium rates and determined that increased premiums are needed to cover the claims cost to help eliminate a deficit in the employee insurance fund in 2014. And whereas the necessary premium increase for the underage 65 retirees was determined to be 160%, but a premium rate increase of 50% is being proposed. And whereas the Rutherford County Commission previously approved funding 50% of the health insurance premium for the underage 65 retirees, with the retiree funding the remaining 50%. And whereas in order to provide relief to the current underage 65 retirees and the underage 65 retirees who will retire in 2013, it is being proposed that for the 2014 calendar year only, Rutherford County will fund 65 and 0.5% for single coverage, both in the copay plan and the deductible plan, and 63 5/10% for family coverage for both the copay plan and the deductible plan, according to the following monthly premium rates. For the pre-65 retiree, notice your column for the copay plan and the deductible plan and the contribution that the pre-65 retiree would make. And the second column is the contribution from the county with the total to the right. For the copay plan single, the total premium rate would be $848.37. The total premium rate for the family would be $1,520.13. For the deductible plan for single, the total premium rate would be $969.57. Family, the total premium rate would be $1,737.30. And whereas the premium distribution between the underage 65 retiree and Rutherford County will revert to 50% paid by the retiree and 50% paid by Rutherford County beginning in the 2015 calendar year, and will apply to those retiring effective January 1, 2014 and after. Whereas the proposed health insurance premium increase for the over age 65 retirees is 10%, according to the following monthly premium rates. For the grandfathered group, for the single, notice the over retiree contribution column and the contribution from the county, with the total premium rates being for the single grandfathered $457.33, for the two-party $914.67. For the employee over 65 and spouse under 65, the total premium rate is $974.07. For the family, the total premium rate is $1,166.22. For the non-grandfathered group, notice you have your column for the retirees' contribution, and then the middle column is the contribution from the county. The total premium rate for single, $457.34. Two-party, $914.68. For the employee over 65 with a spouse under 65, $974.08. Family, $1,166.22. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the health insurance premium rates for the under age 65 retirees and the over age 65 retirees are adopted as outlined in the foregoing resolution effective January 1, 2014, with Rutherford County funding 65 5/10% of the premium for the underage 65 retirees with single coverage in both the copay plan and the deductible plan, and funding 63 5/10% of the premium for the underage 65 retirees with family coverage in both the copay plan and the deductible plan for the 2014 calendar year only. Additionally, the contribution level from Rutherford County for the underage 65 retirees will revert to 50% beginning with the 2015 calendar year for those retiring effective January 1, 2014 and after. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. Now discussion. All right, Commissioner Allen.
Can you distinguish for me what grandfathered and non-grandfathered means and what the numbers are in each of those?
It has to do with the split. If you look at the rates that she just read, the total premium for the grandfathered and non-grandfathered are the same. It's the difference of how much that retiree will pay, the percentage. And it was, I hope I'm right, it was in 2010 was the measurement date.
That's my question. So you're grandfathered if you retired before 2010?
I think it was if you met, not only if you were retired, but if you met the requirements, because you at that time we had some people who were 65, and we said, if you're, some teachers that were continuing to work, and we didn't want a mass exodus of teachers to try to get under, so we said if you meet the requirements as of this date, when you retire, you will be in the grandfather plan.
So will their premium always be capped at that 114, or
no? It's a percentage of how much
total.
The rate, that was our trouble that we had before, is that the rate was fake. Now we're required to determine the rate, the adequate rate to find, but what will stay the same is the amount, the percentage of what that retiree will pay toward that premium and what the county will pay.
And what is their percentage?
Oh, my goodness. When there's 20, oh, you've got it. Oh, thank you. Hold on.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I got it. Grandfathered, the county will pay, oh, I remember this now. The county pays 75% for a single. For a two-party, the county pays 62.5. For a retiree over 65, spouse under 65, the county pays 61.7. For family, the county pays 59.8.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Mr. Chairman, doesn't it, after 5 years, it evens out on the percentage that those retirees that got the discount, if you want to put it that way, it all evens out after 5 years, doesn't it?
Now, that was a group that we were walking into the 50-50 rate, but you still had people who at that time were retired, say were, always had that person who was in the nursing home, 85, that we said we would just at that time take that group and say that we would contribute 75%.
Any other questions? Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This deficit that we're talking about, is that coming from the insurance fund?
Yes.
So we're using the money that's set aside in our insurance fund to subsidize for this calendar year that's coming up?
Yes.
How much?
We have a deficit this year. We had a deficit last year.
How much is being taken out to pay for the subsidy this year for the pre-65 retirees?
How much is taken out? I
guess my question is, what's it going to cost us to kick the can down the road for a year?
All of this together, we need $12 million. We project, and all these combinations of the various plans to balance the expenditures to the revenues.
So, what we're not, I guess, the kicking the can down the road. The rate's the rate, and the kicking the can is how much is the employee the retiree will bear, and how much will the county bear. And so the proposal, as she said, was 60. I want to make sure I'm on the right one. This is the one that we're doing that. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. Can you tell? It just went right out in my head. I guess I'm saying that the rate's the rate. The kicking down the can is how much will that employee retiree ultimately bear, and this method makes it not as hard on this time, but we're going to be having this discussion again next year.
My biggest concern is that next year we're going to say, let's kick it another year because it's an election year, and then we'll kick it another year and then another year. I mean, at some point, this has to come into effect.
I agree, and I think that our insurance director has some ideas, that you'd like to explore within this year.
Well, I guess back to my original question, I still want to know how much we're going to be taking out of the reserve to subsidize this group for the next year.
We're not taking out of the reserve.
If we set these rates, we're going to recover enough revenue based on our projections of the experience that we think we'll have to cover our cost.
Well, where's the money coming from then if that group of people isn't contributing what they were supposed to be contributing? Where's the rest of the money coming from?
The county.
County's putting in the.
But where's that money coming? I guess that's my question.
Each
is where
fund,
is that money?
I mean,
Is that right?
in each fund, we account for the retiree portion. I mean, there will be a line in each budget of what each fund has to pay toward that retiree cost.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Stevens, it might be that we want to get Mrs. Stinson to come up here and give this some more clarity, if you'd like for us to do that.
I have some more questions about this.
I think if you've got more questions, we probably need her up here. So if you would make a motion to suspend the rules. Second, Mr. Phillips and Mr. McAdoo. So all of you in favor of suspending the rule and letting Ms. Stinson address these questions, come on up, please. Aye. All right, Mr. Stevens, you may start over with your questions, or you may go forward with new questions, whatever you choose to do.
Okay, my question was.
I got it.
Still got the question.
I got
okay.
it. Here's your answer that you're looking for. It is $1.5 million to the county. We have $3 million. We're shifting $3 million by doing this, and that's what you're asking. $3 million based on this proposal is being shifted. $1.5 million is going to be paid by the county. $1.5 million is booking into the total rates for the actives in order to accommodate this 50% increase for the pre-65s.
So the active employees are paying part of this too?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that makes more sense now. Over the last few years, we've had a deficit in our insurance fund, which is just something you had just said. Now, that money came out of the insurance reserve. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's money that should have been set aside for the retirees.
That would be for future retirees, because what you want is a self-funded plan that funds itself. And the fundamental problem that we've had is getting proper rate increases to fully fund the fund needs for the upcoming year. And that's where the deficit has occurred. The money that is in reserves should be put aside for our future liabilities. So that's what we're pulling from. It's not the retirees today. It's the active employees who will retire in the future that we're currently pulling from out of that reserve.
So we're borrowing from their benefits to subsidize the active.
And we will continue to do that if we don't fully fund the budget, which the proposal in front of you does. And so all the premiums add up to fully fund the projections. Now, I will throw a disclaimer out there. We are a self-funded model, and what that means is we use experience from February the 1st of last year through the end of March this year to project premiums for 2014. If that claims shift, if our claims experience shifts, then we could end up saving money. We could end up spending more money than what this projects. That is the risk of a self-funded model.
So this kind of leads me to another question. We've taken money out of that fund to subsidize the active employees for the last few years, and they haven't experienced the rate increases that the rest of us have in the private sector. And we'll come to that discussion on the next.
But I don't agree with what you just said, because it's not just the actives who have benefited from that. It's the entire plan, including the county that's benefited from that. Because had we gotten the rates to where they actually needed to be, the county would have funded more and employees would have funded more. So the money that is in reserves comes from collection of premiums where claims haven't been as high as projected. Both actives, retirees, and the county contributed to premiums in those years where they didn't equal the projection.
So are we setting aside enough now to cover the future liabilities?
No, we're not. And we won't be able to do that until we fully fund our expected claims.
When is that?
If you pass this in front of you today, the projections show that we'll be fully funded next year. But there's always volatility in a self-funded model, which is what I just described.
So I guess if we pass what the insurance committee recommended and we're not setting any money aside to put in this reserve fund for the future liabilities, are we going to have to increase the rates again to do that?
In a good year, you can expect a rate increase simply because of inflation and claims trend. That's always going to drive some level of a rate increase. So yes, I will say to you, next year, you can expect a rate increase. Will it be this size? I have no idea until we see what the claims experience shows during the period of review to set the rates in 2015.
In the private sector, I know you have some experience in the private sector, do they have a pool for the active employees and the pre-65 retirees and the post-65 retirees, or how does that work?
My experience is all in a self-funded model as it relates to medical insurance. So we typically would help them set what the budget needs to be, and then much like here, it would be decided how to split and fund the premiums at the employer level. I've seen it done different ways. I've seen it on a blended, and I've seen it done exactly the way the county does it.
I guess I just am having a hard time wrapping my head around this. I mean, either you're retired or you're not. And we have such a small group of people in that pool, but their rates are going up more. And I was at both of the insurance committee, the meeting at the last month, and then also the workshop. But I guess my biggest objection to this is that we're kicking the can down the road a year, and my biggest fear is that next year we're going to come back, since it's an election year, and everybody's going to say, let's kick it another year, because nobody's going to want to do these rate increases then, and all the while we're using more money that we really don't have to subsidize these rates, and I just don't know if that's the best, most responsible way to move forward. So that's my concerns.
Okay, are there any other questions? Commissioner Jeff Phillips, excuse me, Ms. Allen. I'm sorry, I didn't know who was up first.
I just have a question, Melissa. Is it common for government entities to pay for spouse and family coverage? Because my experience in the private sector has been, if you pay anything, you pay it for employee, but you typically don't pay for spouses and families.
Well, we've actually done studies of other municipalities, and what we find is that they actually do pay. They do contribute towards the premium for employee plus spouse, employee plus family, which would have a spouse in both situations.
So then is the percentage that we're allocating, is it comparable to what you've seen in the other studies?
I have seen in other studies lower rates of contribution, and I've seen variable rates of contributions where they had gotten a little bit closer to ours, but the average is around an 80-20 contribution level, with the employer being 80 and the employee being 20%.
Jeff Phillips.
I think the answer is in the resolution itself, but I just want to be real clear. Previously, we agreed to a 50-50 split. Why would we want to do anything different? Why would we want to make an exception to that? I know rates have gone up, but they've gone up as much on us as a county and us as taxpayers as they have everybody else. And this is not something that's totally isolated to county government. It's out there in every operating company that I know of in Rutherford County. So why would we do something different than what we've already agreed to at the 50-50? Can that be explained?
It was asked of us. The Board of Education presented a letter to the insurance committee to consider other options to provide relief, and we explored options as to what that would be. What they had requested was that we blend the rates with the actives in order to provide a lower overall rate for the retirees. When we did that, what occurred was the single retiree on the pre-65 category actually got a rate reduction. And so then it was brought up that what if you just leave the single rate at the current rate today of 2013 so that you get away from that reduction? The problem became this, which is we are blending rates, increasing cost to actives, If you left the single rate at the rate it was today, not only did they need a 160% rate increase, but they weren't going to get any at all. And through discussions, if the ultimate goal and wishes of the committee was to provide that relief, then let's use some logic in deciding what that relief should look like. So what we looked at was if we moved keeping our 2012 commitment and move the active rate from an 88% to an 87%, what would that look like in terms of increase for an active employee? And then we looked at what would that same dollar amount look like in terms of a contribution on the retiree if we wanted to mimic the active increase. In theory, it does about the same thing by giving the rate increase similar across the board. And so that was the proposal that was put out because the 50% was not tolerable to the pre-65 retiree, and their representatives felt like that it warranted discussion, and ultimately this is what was passed by the committee to provide that 1 year of relief. What we will achieve in doing this is allowing the exchange to come about effective 2014 and look at other options that are more long-term goals than just doing a quick fix to subsidize the 1 year that they're being asked for relief. And that's the reason why we took the approach that we did.
One quick follow-up, and we're sure that we won't be coming back next year with the same thing. Absolutely, positively sure. We won't
I can
be
tell
coming
you
back
that
with the
standing
next
here
one.
today, I already have 3 things that I'm going to look at for the pre-65s. It's not my intentions to bring back something like this.
Okay, are there other questions? All right, Ms. Stinson, thank you very much. I'm sure you'll be back up here on the next agenda item.
Should I just leave my
Might want to
things?
stick around. She might want to just stay there.
I think she can just stay up here, but we have to vote on this one first. If there's no other questions now, we have a motion and a second, I believe, on this pre-65 and post-65 rate structure. So please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Mr. Chairman, I need
Okay.
to read my conflict of interest statement. Because I am a retired employee of the Rutherford County Department of Education, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Commissioner Serino. Any other disclosures?
And of course, you all noticed when we read our conflict of interest statement under this one, that tells you what our age is. Sorry to say.
At least what your age is.
Or at least what our age is.
Anyone else have any disclosures? All right, we've already given you an opportunity to cast your votes, so let's record the votes.
17 yes, 4 no. Motion passes.
Item K2V, a resolution authorizing health insurance premium rates for active employees effective January 1, 2014. Whereas in an effort to generate sufficient revenue to cover the claims cost in the Employee Insurance Fund, the following premium rates are being proposed for active employees effective January 1, 2014. Copay plan, individual total premium, $506.02. The amount paid by Rutherford County, 90%. Employee spouse, $1,062.65 is the premium, 87% paid by Rutherford County. Employee child, $1,936.14 is the total premium, 87% paid by Rutherford County. Employee family, the total premium is $1,467.46, with 87% being paid by Rutherford County. Deductible plan, individual total premium, $580.18, with 90% paid by the Rutherford County. Employee spouse, total premium $1,218.38, 87% paid by Rutherford County. Employee child, total premium $1,073.30, 87% paid by Rutherford County. Employee family, $1,682.52 is the total premium. Amount paid by Rutherford County, 87%. HRA plan, individual total premium, $366.76, 100% paid by Rutherford County. Employee spouse, total premium, $770.19, 98% paid by Rutherford County. Employee child, total premium, $678.50, amount paid by Rutherford County, 99%. Employee family, total premium, $1,063.60, 97% paid by Rutherford County. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the health insurance rates for the active employees are adopted as outlined in the foregoing resolution effective January 1, 2014, resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Jordan. Okay. Questions or discussion?
I have a conflict to read.
Disclosures, if you want to do those, then you can still have an opportunity for questions. Disclosures?
Because my wife is an employee of Rutherford County, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Since I said it before, got to say it again on this one? Well, okay, it's because my wife is an employee of the Board of Education since the Challenger disaster, and she still will be after the 1st of January. I have a conflict of interest in a proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Thank you. Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Because I'm an employee of Rutherford County School Board, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Also, I'm an employee of Rutherford County Highway Department. I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and constituents and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Phillips. Jeff.
These percentages, someone will probably need to refresh my memory, but we put together a plan to bring employee contributions to a certain level, and I think it was 20% or 15% or something like that every year over the next 4 or 5 years. This doesn't appear to be reaching that agreement or that goal that this commission agreed to a year or 2 or 3 or 4 ago, however long that was. Am I wrong or am I right?
Well, you're partially correct. The part you're correct on is that it was discussed last year that we would move towards the 80-20%. We didn't designate a time frame of 2, 4, 5 years. What we did say was that at a minimum of 1% per year, which the proposal in front of you does meet that that move that we indicated that we would make last year. And in some instances, it actually improves it. As an example, if you look at the HRA, it is currently 100% across the board, and under this proposal, it moves from 100%, 2 points on employee plus spouse, 1 point on employee plus child, and 3 points on employee plus family. And at the time that we discussed that 80-20 split, we weren't considering the HRA. There had not been any discussions up to that point to move that anywhere beyond the 100% across the board that was being paid at that time.
I guess I have a follow-up to that question, too. Why are we not following what we put together? Okay, you said last year. Why are we not doing that?
Well, we did. We moved it the 1% that we committed to. We were at 88%. So we moved it that 1% that we committed to, and then on the HRA, we took additional action on 2 of the 3 tiers that could have been affected.
And I've misread this. So all of these percentages equal to that 86 or 87% that Commissioner Jordan just mentioned?
If you look at the sheet in front of you, and I'll just kind of show you. Yes, sir, that's correct. I didn't bring a color copy up here, so I had to eyeball Commissioner Farley's over here a little bit. If you will look, there is a green column. The top section is the copay plan. The section below that is the deductible plan, and these are only active rates. And the section below that is the HRA plan. So if you look at that green column to your farthest left, you will see that on the copay plan on employee individual, it's at 90%. The employee plus spouse through employee plus family is at 87%. That's indicative of that 1% commitment that we made last year. If you go to the deductible plan, the employee individual is at 90%, and the employee spouse, employee child, and employee family is at 87%, again, upholding the commitment. On the HRA, previously it was 100% for all 4 tiers. Employee individual remains at 100%, employee plus spouse is at 98%, employee plus child is at 99%, and employee plus family is at 97%. That one impact right there, just on the HRA, saves the county $259,000. It passes $259,000 in premiums to the employees enrolled on the HRA plan.
One more follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
This year we were at 88, and in 2014, with this plan, we'll be at 87, which is what we were shooting for when we put that 1% in effect. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then the HRA was affected, which is additional improvement in terms of contribution by employee.
Thank you. It's my bad. I didn't mean
That's
to confuse
okay.
you. Thank you.
That's why I'm up here to answer questions.
Any other questions? Commissioner Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Someone had asked me to just ask a couple of questions. I'd like to do that real quick, and then I have some questions of my own. Who is the third-party administrator for our health insurance program?
Cigna Healthcare is our third-party administrator in terms of who pays our claims.
I'll be contacting you probably tomorrow by email, but I'd like to get a copy of the administrative services agreement, if I can do that. Do they charge 25% of every claim that's processed?
That information I don't have at the top of my head. I would have to pull the contract on that.
Okay, I'd like to know that for sure. And then do they charge $14.95 per person to be part of the PPO?
That is all inclusive of their administrative costs, which was in full disclosure during the bid process. And one thing that, before we go too far off with that thought process, is that I want to, on terms of our plan itself, if you give me just one moment, because I understand where you're going with that, and you're trying to make a point that Cigna is charging so much, which is driving our budget needs, but I would argue that fact. As a matter of fact, some of the points about our program that were mentioned earlier up here were not correct. And I'll give you an example of that. Our fixed cost for 2011-12 fiscal year was $216,576.13. Our claims that we paid was $3.7 million. Maybe that seems like a large percentage, but our problem is in our budget is not because of what Cigna is charging us. It's really not because of employee utilization in terms of selections of care. That's only at a 3.5% increase, which is a really good trend. Claims trend, what does it cost today versus what it's going to cost in 2014, is the biggest driver inside of the rate increase that we're seeing. But I'll be glad to provide you with the contract.
And then there was a discussion at the insurance workshop about removing like gastric bypass surgery and a few other things from the plan, and I guess that was ultimately not recommended. I had to leave that meeting early, so I'm not sure what the consensus was about
It
that.
It was ultimately not recommended, and here's why. When we did the actuarial study on that, it showed a projection level much higher than what the actual experience ended up revealing once we had the work session. And there was such inconsistency in the 2 years of review. There was actually a $100,000 fluctuation between the two, that the discussion was that we wait and see what a third year reveals so we have a more accurate picture of what is that benefit costing us on a true trend, and so we left it in for this upcoming year.
How much did it cost for the prior 2 years?
Okay, just one second, I'll tell you. For the period of July 2010 through June 2011, we had 7 claimants for a plan cost of $165,936. For July 2011 through June 2012, we had 3 claims for a total of $75,881. So it's a pretty big shift year from year. Mm-hmm.
What were all the other things in there? Because it seemed like it totaled $600,000 or $700,000 when you added all those things together.
Those were, and I don't think I had those documents with me. That was the discussion that we had about basically, for not trying to be insensitive, but what you do after someone has lost a tremendous amount of weight. There is what is commonly called like an apron, where there's excess skin that has to be removed from the abdomen, under the arms, those type of areas. What was the discussion that left the work committee was that we would not consider at any point removing that, because we don't want to disincentivize employees from losing the weight naturally. If they lost the weight naturally, then they would remove some of those comorbidity and risk factors, potentially lower their pharmacy costs and these other clinical things, and therefore we would want to support and encourage that ongoing behavior by allowing them to actually do full wellness of their body. Because when you lose that amount of weight, it's not just what you look like physically, but it's how you feel mentally about yourself. And it's just as traumatic for someone to lose an enormous amount of weight that creates that situation and not have any recourse for it. So we want to amend that person fully, which is why that was not reviewed any further after the work session.
I'm not very skilled in insurance plans. I wish I knew more about them, but is that something that's typically covered in the private sector?
Our research showed that, and in speaking with other municipalities, talking with Cigna with what their clients have, a lot do have it in. The bariatric surgery is included in their benefits.
Private companies, they do that? You said other municipalities.
Yes, I mean, Cigna administers municipalities and private sector, and so their information came back to me on both those, yes.
And then my other question is, right now we're paying like 90% of the employees' health insurance premium on this deductible plan and on the co-pay plan, and we're also paying 90% or close to that for the spouse. Is that correct?
Well, we are paying 13% of the total premium for employee plus spouse under this recommendation. What are you looking at?
No, I mean, like right now we're paying 90% or just under that for the employee, and we're also paying that for the spouse.
No, that's incorrect. Right now, today, we have an 88% contribution level on employee plus spouse and employee plus family, which would include a spouse.
But essentially, we're paying 88% of the spouse and the dependent's premiums.
Correct.
That has to stop. Like we are attracting people into our program. I don't know how other municipalities do this, but in the private sector, I don't think they're going to pay 90% of the spouse's premium. That is a very high amount of money, and we need to be sure with these spouses, if they have benefits through their employer, that they get their insurance through the employer. My understanding is that the Obamacare has a tax per person that's in our program that we have to send in to fund this exchange program, and everybody that's attracted to our program, we have to pay this tax on.
$63, and it's called the transitional reinsurance fee, and you're correct on that.
It's a tax. So we're paying it per person that's in our program. We're sending that money to Washington. So the more people that we're insuring, the higher that fee is going to be.
Yes, I agree. However, I will tell you that out of the 10 that I have here in front of me, only 2 of them actually reduce the spouse premium contribution.
Well, with the costs going up the way they are, we don't know what they're going to do in the future. My guess is that they're going to keep skyrocketing. I know from my own personal experience, my insurance has gone up 40% in the last 3 years. And, I want it. I don't like spending the extra money on it, but you've got to pay for it. And this this deal of the county paying 87% of the spouse also, we just can't afford to do that. I mean, that just has to stop. We're going to have to look at going to 50-50 or finding some way to get people off of our plan and get them into their own plan somewhere else and using ours as a last resort. Is there some way that, you had told me before something about a surcharge that we could put on the spouse?
Well, yes, some companies, they could apply a surcharge, which says that if you want to have a spouse on the plan, then it's an additional whatever that number is above the premium level. I don't want to overlook the fact of what we've done on the HRA, and I've kind of said it a couple of times, hoping to gain some momentum, but it's fallen flat, so I'm just going to be more direct about it. We have a lot of people who are taking the HRA plan as a safety net, and there's a problem there. We need, whenever someone does that, and why wouldn't they? We're paying 100% of it. Certainly I would if I was in a situation where I needed secondary insurance. I would take it as a safety net if it's no premium. When you look at this, today a family has no incentive to not take it. However, if you pass what's in front of you, they're going to start paying nearly $32 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're only going to the doctor every 3-4 months, well, you're probably not going to pay $90 just for simple math in a 3-month period for your spouse to go to the doctor. And people need to start doing financial analysis like that, and I believe that they will. I had a conversation just this week with someone who called because they had a claim issue, and their spouse is employed, and they carry family coverage at the spouse's employer. And they also carry the HRA family here in Rutherford County. And I advised this employee, I said, you may want to take a look at open enrollment on your spouse, because there is a proposal on the table that says we're going to start charging a family premium on the HRA. And she said, well, what's it going to be? I said, roughly about $32. She said, yeah, that'll probably be enough for me to not do that anymore. We just do it right now because financially it's good for us. So I think that we're going to gain momentum without having to take drastic measures like what you're referencing, just in this one step. And you've mentioned the exchange, and I don't disagree with you that it's going to open up a different level of review. And I think that this year we are in somewhat of a tough spot because we need to do what is bearable. First and foremost, we need to fund the insurance fund to its 100%. That's the main objective this year. And we need to do what we can in terms of the premium splits. And then next year, I think it's going to be a much different conversation based on what reveals itself for the remainder of 2013.
Of course, we're assuming that exchange opens on time and properly.
Well, that is correct.
And we don't know what's going to happen with that because the rules seem to keep changing. Plays, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. So I hate to base our budgeting off of assumptions with the federal government, but these rates that we have here just aren't sustainable over time. We cannot continue to do this and keep our budget intact. And if we went to a plan that was 80-20, we would have more money coming in to help pay for this, and we could probably use that money to help increase the pay of those who are below the median. One of the arguments that I've heard several times is that the government employees are making a lot less than those in the private sector. Well, I got the median income, and it was just below the median income for those in Rutherford County. It was a little bit lower, but it wasn't drastically lower. And the average seemed to be a little bit higher from the numbers that I got. So that argument really doesn't carry too much weight. And out in the private sector, you're getting an 80-20 split, a 70-30 split, or if you're self-employed, you're paying 100% of it. I pay 100% of mine, and I have terrible insurance. So to have an 80-20 plan, I don't think that's unreasonable at all. And I really think we need to consider some changes to this proposal, because I'm looking at the long-term sustainability of our budget and our finances, and this just is not going to work. And coupled with the pensions that we're paying out, it's going to just keep putting us in a situation where we're going to have to raise taxes every year. So I can't support this, and I'd like to know what everybody else seems to think about it.
Can I make one comment?
Questions or other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Mr. Baum, you want to say something else?
I want to make one comment in
One
conclusion
comment,
to what he
and
said.
Commissioner Baum.
I just want to remind the commissioners that if you've watched some of the insurance committee meetings and other meetings, 3% of this rate increase is because we haven't made a proper budget for the insurance fund last year. So if we don't fund the budget, and we say we don't want to charge that much, we want to charge more or whatever, 3%. So you're compounding a problem in more ways than just one. And it's very complex, and I just felt like that's something that we needed to be aware of.
Commissioner Baum.
We're facing a proposed budget at the moment that has a $27 million shortfall. By that I mean our revenues are $27 million behind our proposed expenditures. That's what the Budget Committee at the moment is working with. That budget proposal also uses the insurance premiums that were recommended by the county's insurance committee. Now on Thursday in the Budget Committee, we voted by a 4-3 margin not to take the insurance committee's recommendation. We came up with an insurance set of premiums that's a little bit different. The total premium with what the Budget Committee passed is the same amount as what the county's insurance committee passed. It's the split in the premium that's paid by the county versus the employee that changed. Basically, in the budget's recommendation, which is what we're considering right now since the Budget Committee did not take the insurance committee's recommendation, the recommendation from budget that we're considering right now basically shifts a little over $1 million in premiums from the employee to the county, so that if you're looking at the county shortfall and we pass this, then our projected shortfall will increase from $27 million to $28 million. We could probably use some money out of our reserves so that we can meet a portion of that shortfall. I think if we use, from the projections I've seen, if we use all of our reserves, then we would still have a shortfall of about $6 million. But if we pass this resolution that we're getting ready to vote on, it shifts about $1 million in insurance premiums from the employees to the county. So this $6 million figure that I just gave, that would be our shortfall if we use reserves, it would increase by about $1 million. Now, the good aspect of what the Budget Committee has recommended is it does take a portion of this burden off of our employees. But the downside is it makes it that much more unlikely that we as commissioners are going to be able to find a way to avoid a tax increase. So that means this shift of $1 million from employees is ultimately going to be shifted to the taxpayer. I guess I have two concerns about that. One is some of our taxpayers are retirees on fixed incomes. We have other taxpayers who are working in the private sector. I see no reason why private sector employees' insurance costs aren't going up as well. So as we shift this burden, private sector employees in Rutherford County are paying for their own higher health care costs, and they're paying for $1 million more of the higher health care costs of public sector employees. I guess because of this, I think we need to move back in the direction of what the county's insurance committee recommended. I suppose there's probably some commissioners who don't think what the insurance committee recommended is even an aggressive enough proposal. But it at least prevents $1 million more of county shortfall.
Commissioner Baum, I'd like to let Ms. Nolan, the $1 million is what would be on an annualized basis, but since these rates only go into effect for January the 1st, it'd really be a half of a year, this budget year, but the next succeeding year it would be $1 million.
That's true. I should say that these insurance premiums are paid on a calendar year basis, so the premiums that we would be setting are for the year 2014. The budget we're getting ready to pass starts at the beginning of this fiscal year in 2013, so the first half of the next fiscal year won't see these rate changes. But starting January the 1st of 2014, from there on, the rate changes will be in effect. So it is true that the premium rates are set on a slightly different basis than the fiscal year. The fiscal year is different than the calendar year, but over the long run, it's going to basically have the effect that I suggested.
Correct.
That does remind me, if I may, Mayor, say one thing.
Ms. Benson and then Commissioner Jordan.
I didn't see you stand up. I was looking at my sheet. inadvertently, I had some problems with the.
Right in that mic.
I had a
please.
problem with the printer today, and I don't want someone to think I intentionally left it off. On your sheet, there is actually information on your iPads on this sheet, if you scroll all the way over, that gives you percentages, and it was cut off of the sheet in front of you. And so I wanted to, this is somewhat directly related to what Commissioner Baum said. The employees under the proposal brought forth by the Budget Committee actually increases their premiums contributions. So what will they pay in 2014 compared to what they're contributing in 2013? It increases their total premium contributions by 38.2%. So on an aggregated basis, they're going to contribute 38.2% more in premiums. The county under this proposal will contribute 22.5% more in 2014 than what they are contributing in 2013. So I think those percentages are important to understand. On the Insurance Committee recommendation, employees would contribute 63.1% more in 2014, and Rutherford County would contribute 19.9% more in 2014. So the employee would almost pay twice as much in terms of aggregated percent of premiums. The county would only move about 2.5% between the two proposals, which is the $1,097,000 that Commissioner Baum is referencing.
Commissioner Jordan?
Well, Ms. Stinson's doing a good job. She said a lot of what I was going to say. I'm on the insurance committee. Of course, everybody knows there's a spot available. Anybody wants it, they're welcome to it. We passed that in the insurance committee by a split vote. We had 2 or 3 tie votes, and this passed by 1. The recommendation that came, it was extremely hard on the employees. The more I looked at it after the meeting, I just couldn't sleep at night knowing there's a employee of the sheriff's department called me and said my rates are projected to go from $162 to $288 a month for his portion. I said, oh, that can't be right. I think you misquoted that or misread that. And I looked back. He was absolutely right. That's tremendous. 162 to 288. That's, like she said, an average of 60-something% across the board. The employees, we're going to end up giving a 1% increase or something like that with their step. This guy made $28,000 a year. Was the only breadwinner in his house. A couple of children. He's barely getting by. Mr. Sandvik tells me they've got over 300, or right at 300 employees making between $11,500 a year and $25,000 a year. There's people out there struggling. And that's why I presented the motion to soften this blow a little bit, but it still goes with our 1% more to employees this year, and hopefully every year, and hopefully in 5 or 6 more years we'll get to an 80-20. Just a little bit at a time, but these people just can't hardly make it. And I think we've got 2 camps up here. One camp wants to save the taxpayer. There's some more people up here who want to save the employees, and somebody's going to get bit. And so I think the projection that came out of the Budget Committee is about as equal as we can get, because the money's got to come up from somewhere. And I just can't sleep at night if we make it any worse than a 38% increase on these employees. I mean, it's not bad on a department head that's making, $50,000, $60,000 a year, but there's a whole lot of people out there making 20-something, and those people got to feed their families. So I just hope we pass what the Budget Committee presented and just move on the best we can.
Stinson wanted to make another comment, I believe.
Just one of the things that I was reminded of whenever the commissioner was speaking is that of the calls that I get, there's one sentiment that reveals itself quite often, which is employees are also taxpayers predominantly in Rutherford County. I know whenever we did a survey of where employees live in terms of reviewing our clinics, over 80% of them lived in a Murfreesboro zip code. And so that's one of the things that they have asked me to look at as well, is that for everything that you do, you're affecting me as an employee, but I'm also a taxpayer, and I get an impact there as well. So I think that they are trying to look at it just as carefully as you all are being required to look at it tonight.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? We do have a motion and a second on the floor, and Commissioner McAdoo.
I don't have a question of the insurance director, but I do have a question of county attorney. Now, if we set these rates tonight, and I come in here June the 30th, and I'm looking at maybe, right now we're saying $27 million shortfall. But June the 30th, I come in here and all of a sudden some departments come in here better than what we anticipated, and I'm looking at a $15 or $16 million shortfall. Can I adjust these insurance premium rates that day?
Legally, you can. I guess I'd have to defer to Ms. Stinson in terms of how this impacts the ability of the county to go forward with the program. I mean, until it's set in stone as to what you're doing, you can always back up and change. But I don't know if that's going to upset the apple cart as the ability to implement the program. I don't know about the timing. So legally, to answer your question, yeah, until it's cast in stone, you could. But I defer to Ms. Stinson and others that whether that's doable or not. I don't know if you reversed fields, if you could still handle it or not.
We actually began development of the open enrollment process at the end of May. We typically don't project premiums beyond this time frame right here. Actuarially, we use what's already been determined. So I don't foresee that we would have any knowledge of any change in projections such as what you just described in the next month. We would be adding in 2 months at the most experience at that point at the end of June. When we added 2 months last time, we didn't see a considerable amount of movement in the numbers, so I don't think that we would experience what you just said.
But can we do it? In other words, if we look at it June the 30th, can your department, even though you got open enrollment, can you make an adjustment based on our information or whatever we do that day to back to the employees with an extended open enrollment based on the information?
We're only in the development phase that time. Open enrollment is not until October. I think my concern in hearing what you're saying is something that I said earlier may have been overlooked, which is these numbers are based on an actuarial study of claims experience. We are a self-funded model, which is different than a fully insured model. In a fully insured model, you pay the premium and you're done. If your claims are better, then the insurance carrier wins. If they're worse, then you'll probably lose the next year because they're going to take a big rate increase. Even if we adjusted it, we would still have volatility under a self-funded model. So I really don't see the benefit of going through this process in 30 days, in essence, and adjusting these numbers. They would be such small percentages.
Ms. Stinson, I think he's really saying if we find some money outside of this insurance discussion that improves our whole total revenue structure within the county, then could we change these premiums if we so chose to?
If you all came to me and said, we're going to give you a $5 million advance, is that what you're saying?
From somewhere?
Then yes, we would drop the overall totals by $5 million.
Because right now, you know, it's early. We're looking at a $27 million shortfall based on the information that we got at present right here tonight. But as you all know, the Budget and Finance Committee hadn't completed their job with the other departments, and we got other things lacking out there that information hadn't all got in, and we do not have a complete package that's telling me specifically what my shortfall is going to be. That's the reason I asked the question.
All right, thank you, Mr. McAdoo. Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? Commissioner Phillips.
I want to remind everybody that Commissioner Jordan was saying about the rates increasing from 166 to the numbers that he gave for the family. I want to remind you that there's an HRA option, and I have personally been on HRA since it came out. It has been free. This next year it's proposed at 31
and some change. Mm-hmm.
Something for a family. Then you have a $3,000 deductible, but the county pays the first $1,500. And then you can, for free, enroll into an HRA, a health reimbursement account, and put up to $2,500 where they take out a portion of that monthly, and that can cover your other $1,500 plus another $1,000 in expenses. After that $3,000 deductible, the plan pays 90/10. You only pay 10% of that. And so, you know, there are other options other than the option 2 that apparently this employee at the sheriff's office was under.
Thank you very much.
I just have one follow-up question. We were talking about increasing the rates or increasing the portion that the employees pay. Have the employees been at 91%? Because we didn't touch employees on any of these. So
No.
they're staying at 90. We're only moving spouses and family?
Yeah, we had never, as part of our commitment last year, we never discussed the employee portion of it. And during our review, a lot of times they will factor the employee rate at 100%. So even at 10%, we're being somewhat more aggressive than some of our competitors would be or other employers.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stinson.
Mr. Chairman,
Sandlin.
just a clarification. We are, and it was a problem with the insurance committee as well as it was the budget committee, and you could tell by the votes out of both those committees and that it's, you know, it's heartfelt all the way across the board there. But is our goal to get to 80-20? Is that our goal?
That was the goal that we set back when it was 90, and we've come down now to 87 with this proposal. Yes.
Okay. We, you know, this is another tough decision, why all of us commissioners get paid so much to make these tough decisions. You know, I was a recipient of the county insurance for a number of years, and let me tell you, going to the private sector, look at those rates at 80-20 and even less on a lot of them. Like I mentioned in budget committee the other night, got a guy who owns his own shop, mechanic and everything, works his rear end off, paying $1,800 a month just for health care, and there's no issues. Got a wife and 2 kids. He's getting ready, he told me the other day, roll the dice. I can't afford it anymore. You know, I'm just going to have to pay out of pocket when there's an issue and hope and pray that there is no major issues to come about. This has been, and I've heard the discussion from Mr. Stevens and a lot of others, commissioners, that, you know, about the cost, and change is always an issue with change. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes, especially coming out of pocket with any more money in a situation like this as far as insurance. It's not glamorous. Ms. Stinson's job is not a glamorous job. She's come and brought us very bad news, you know, for a couple of years here now, and thank goodness we haven't done anything with her. You're just bringing us the bad news. You know, we're trying to, she's doing a good job. I appreciate that. But, you know, it gets to the point, you know, a number of years ago, we weren't able to give employee increases or raises because of the insurance. Insurance was a promotion or an incentive to work for the county because we had great insurance. And let me tell you, by being on the county insurance and now not on the county insurance, I wish I was back on the county insurance. We have a great insurance plan. We are protecting our employees. We are protecting their families as well to a certain degree. But with this, Obamacare and everything else that's coming at us, that insurance table is just all over the board. It's changing daily. And we're going to have to change with it, or our taxpayers, our employees, we're all going to suffer out of this. So I just want to see what the goal is, and if it's the 80-20 goal, we have got to get something, and we've got to say something to our employees. Here's where we're headed, and this is how we're going to get there. And I don't think we've exactly said that clear. I asked the other night, you know, Ms. Stinson about the educational process into meeting and talking with our employees. Maybe we pay our employees to come to this meeting because they send these packets out and the DVDs and all that sort of stuff, but do the employees really know what they're signing up for? Are they in the right plan? And the education part of that may save this county millions of dollars. It may save them hundreds or thousands of dollars coming out of their pocket per year. So I want to make sure that the educational process is intact and still carrying on, and to make our employees knowledgeable of what they're getting or what they can get or all they can get for their dollar. But with that, you know, it's a tough decision. I was going the other way. I voted no the other night on budget. I'm going to vote no here tonight because I think it needs to be a little more aggressive. It's not the most popular thing. But then again, I don't want to continually keep coming up here every year changing unless we have a plan saying this is what we're doing every year and let's stick to that. So our employees know, we know, and our taxpayers know where we're heading with this plan because it is a costly one. Thank you.
Mr. Schaefer.
I hate to do it, but I got to say something. I voted for the insurance committee's plan. I brought that up at budget the other night, and I did not get a second on it. And so I voted against this plan when it came up. But today, because I've looked at a lot of things, and I'm going to go with the plan that was proposed by the budget committee because I hear about the money in the private sector. It's not much more than what they make in the county from one commissioner tonight. I know that's not true. I know that a few years ago, we postponed a plan for a year because we didn't have the money. I know also in the last 6 years, the table has been raised twice, 1%. So you start throwing inflation in there, and the employees in this county, at least the lower ones, the ones that don't get the help from the state, when the state comes through and says you're going to give 9 people 7.5%, 8% raises, and then when they come in with their 3% on other years, you got to give that too. That we have no choice. Well, we have a choice. We can go back at them. It's just like we approved $60,000 today for the unassigned fund balance or undesignated fund balance, whatever it is, and it's for autopsies. It's $235,000 we're going to spend this year to see if somebody's dead because a judge or a police officer in one of the municipalities or the county, and the county pays for all of that. So I came prepared tonight, and if we go with the 87% tonight, this is what we do to the employees in the county. That's a little screw. If we change it tonight and go lower, that one's a bigger one. So the choice is yours, because I know what's going to happen, and I know what's going to come out of the Budget Committee. We're not going to give a step raise this year and 2 or 3% on top of it. I can guarantee you that.
All right, thank you. If anyone wants to speak that hasn't spoken, excuse me. Now we're recirculating here. Mr. Stevens.
I would like to ask the commissioner from Laverne upon what basis he made the statement that the private sector, or if you have any data to support that.
Yes, our human resource director, late last year, early this year, was talking about she had done with private industry, the ones that answered her, came through and she told us the type raises they were getting. And they would go anywhere from 2 to 5%. There was a couple, that didn't get any. I came out, I said, I have 3 children in the private sector. They all got nice raises. One of them got a much nicer bonus than she got a raise. So that's an example there. Now, the insurance is not as good outside. I'll go along with that. But I think the private sector has done okay.
Let's say that this kind of discussion is a little bit subjective, and let's try to stay on this point of these rates that we're trying to set here right now.
Well, this information that I received from the finance director, it says currently the average county employee salary is $39,669 and the median is $36,790. That's just for the general fund employees and solid waste and ambulance. It does not include the highway department. And then I got a response from the school system, and it said that their average salary for the teachers was $48,117, teachers, administrators, and classified staff. And then there were some hourly staff, and theirs was $21,764 average and $18,651 median. And I don't know what the average and median would be if you add all those together, because I don't know exactly all the data, but that's just what I was given. But anyway, the median household in Rutherford County for one person, according to the IRS, is somewhere around $39,000. And then the median for the county is about $37,000. So it's a little bit lower, but it's not drastically lower. And that doesn't even include the elected officials' salaries, the ones that make the six figures. So I dispute the fact that they're making a ton of money less than those in the private sector. It's not quite as much, I will grant you that, but it's not a drastic difference. And I do understand that there's people out there who are making less than that, and that any insurance cost increase is going to hurt them financially. I understand that. I work with people all the time that are in financial trouble, and it is kind of painful to see what might happen to them with these increases going into effect. I understand that. But our ultimate question is going to be what's best for the county as a whole. And we have to come up with something that's sustainable. And this plan over time is just not sustainable. We have to come up with a way to make it work. And so I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion and to go with the recommendation that the insurance committee had passed at its meeting.
Made a motion to amend this to accept the recommendation from the insurance committee as opposed to this recommendation from the budget committee. Is there a second? Motion failed for lack of a second. Commissioner Farley.
Call for the question.
Call for the question. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor of the calling for the question, please say aye. Aye. How many are opposed? The ayes have it. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
Ten yes, 10 no.
Mayor votes yea. Motion passes. Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Burgess. I changed my mind from when I walked into this courtroom tonight until I just cast a yay vote. And one of the reasons was what I thought was the excellent job that our insurance director did of explaining some of the questions that I had, and I'm still a little confused about it. But one of the main reasons that I was going to vote no was because of a letter that I got, two letters, one from the Southern Police Benevolent Association and one from the Fraternal Order of Police, saying that we have no option but to take a stand to inform you and any elected official that supports this increase on the backs of our members that we will effectively oppose your reelection or the election of any office you may seek. Support by you to hike for this hike will be considered a confrontation on your part and your non-support of law enforcement, their families, and their friends. This particular threat, or might even be considered blackmail, was a particular issue with me, but I was able to put that aside, and I think, hopefully, do what's in the best interest of our employees and our taxpayers both. And one of the reasons that I read that was because that I felt an attack by two organizations that was actually trying to persuade me, and I think even blackmail me to the point of what my vote would be. So my vote was a yes, but it was not because of this. It was because I really think that the presentation that was made more sense to me after I heard it than when I walked into this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ely, will you proceed onward, please?
Item K2W, resolution authorizing dead stock removal service agreement for year 2013 and 14, and I'm sure we all feel a little bit like dead stock right now, huh? Okay. Whereas Rutherford County desires to enter into a service agreement with Appertain Corporation, South Central Tennessee Development District, for removal and disposal services for all dead livestock within the county for a term of 12 months commencing July 1, 2013 at a cost of $33,752. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute a service agreement with Appertain Corporation, South Central Tennessee Development District, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, for removal and disposal services for all dead livestock within the county for a term of 12 months commencing on July 1, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Jordan and several others. All in favor of this, please say aye.
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 Resolution authorizing a grant contract with Tennessee Department of Human Services for child support services. Whereas Rutherford County has been notified of a grant award from the State of Tennessee Department of Human Services in the amount of $31,124, requiring local matching funds of $16,034 for provision of 4D child support services. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute a grant agreement with the Tennessee Department of Human Services, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, for the provision of 4D child support services for the period beginning on July 1, 2013, ending June 30, 2014, with the maximum liability of the state under the grant not exceeding $31,124 and requiring local matching funds of $16,034. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Cook. Any questions or discussion? Okay, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
$18 yes, 1 abstain. Motion passes.
Item K2Y, a resolution authorizing a submission of a litter and trash collection grant along county roads. Whereas Rutherford County intends to apply for the aforementioned grant from the Tennessee Department of Transportation to be executed from July 1, 2013 to June 30, 2014, and whereas the contract for the grant will impose certain legal obligations upon Rutherford County, now therefore be it resolved that the county mayor of Rutherford County is authorized to apply on behalf of Rutherford County for a litter and trash collection grant from the Tennessee Department of Transportation, and that should said application be approved by the Tennessee Department of Transportation, the county mayor is hereby authorized to execute contracts or other necessary documents by which may be required to signify acceptance of the litter and trash collection grant by Rutherford County. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
And a second from Commissioner P. Any discussion? All in favor of that, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carried.
Item K2Z, and that's the end of the alphabet, right? Resolution authorizing contract with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for litter removal activities on state highways. Whereas the attached contract by and between the Department of Transportation, State of Tennessee, and Rutherford County, Tennessee, for litter removal activities on state highways, a copy of said contract being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length as if set forth verbatim, is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the appropriate officials for and on behalf of Rutherford County be and hereby are authorized to enter into and execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County the contract with the Department of Transportation, State of Tennessee, for litter removal activities on state highways within Rutherford County. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Cook. Any discussion? All of you in favor of that, please say aye. Are there any opposed? That motion carried unanimously. All right, thank you, Ms. Ely, for a great job. The Health and Education Committee has no report. The Property Management Committee has no report. Public Safety Committee, no report. The Public Works and Planning Committee, that item that was listed on your agenda there has been determined to not be necessary or required by TDOT, so we can strike that and we won't be discussing that particular request. Now we're ready for Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee, and they have a resolution.
Mr. Chairman, we have one resolution regarding the Records Commission. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the Director of Technology Office of Rutherford County is hereby designated as an ex officio member of the Rutherford County Records Commission. Be it further resolved, the presiding judge of the 16th Judicial District or his designee is hereby appointed as a judicial representative of the Rutherford County Records Commission. Resolved this 16th day of May, 2013. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second was Commissioner Stevens. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda. Is there any other business?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Commission, just a quick reminder that the Health and Education Committee, along with the Budget Committee and the School Board, will be meeting to go over the school board budget request for next year. We'll do that Tuesday night at 5:30 at the school board offices. Mr. Sandy was the always efficient person, left you a packet. I believe it was on everybody's desk when you got here. He informed me tonight that there would be almost no chance for any updated figures between now and Tuesday night. So I think it would behoove all of us, 13 of us will definitely be there, and some of the rest of you also come, and certainly welcome. 5:30, school board. And I don't think there'll be much changes, if any, to these figures, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other business? If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.